Why Starbucks closed 7,100 stores in the US for 3 hours. Yes, that is exactly what they did on February the 26th, 2008. It was an unprecedented step in the whole history of the organization. Let me tell you why they did it. What's important is the context in terms of the backstory. So in 2008, there was a financial crisis and an economic headstorm that the business was facing off into. But also there was a number of strategic missteps that the business had done. Howard Schultz, who was the founder of Starbucks, retired in 2000, moved into the chairman's role. And when he retired, he left the business in a really great place. The business had gone through phenomenal growth. They had a blueprint, they had a success formula that they followed. And in the 8-year period to 2008, the business did a series of strategic missteps. So for example, they had a blueprint for where they opened stores based on the footfall, the locations. They moved away from that model and started to open stores all over the place. They had a really tight induction process of how they trained baristas in terms of making the coffee, what it meant to work at Starbucks. Because they were recruiting so many people, the success formula wasn't followed. Then they started to get customer complaints about the quality. The competition was going through the roof in terms of in the coffee industry, and the share price was heading south and falling through the floor. So in 2008, Howard Schultz made the decision to return as the active CEO running the daily management of the business. And one of the things that he set out the blueprint from day one was about a forward to basic strategy. Starbucks had lost its soul, and there's a great book that Howard Schultz wrote called Onwards, which in it he captures his whole story about how he turned Starbucks back around, how he got the share price back up. And what's interesting is the strap line around how Starbucks fought for its life without losing its soul. And that's exactly what Howard Schultz said the business had done. It lost its soul. It lost its focus about what it was about. It needed to return to its core values. It needed to return to its principles of selling and making great coffees, which is why on February the 26th, 2008, he took the unprecedented step to lock 7,100 Starbucks stores across America for 3 hours. And what did he do in that time? He retrained every single barista in the art and the science of making the perfect espresso. They needed to go back forward to basics in creating brilliant cups of coffee for their customers. And the only way they could do that was if they locked everybody out. They sent customers away. They had 3 hours of dedicated focus to their trade, to their craft, and they went forward to basics in getting the basics of the organization right, which was about making great cups of coffee. Not only did they do that, Howard Schultz took the leadership team away. He talked to them about they'd lost their focus and what business were we really in. And what was interesting was their vision used to be, we're in the coffee business serving people. And they turned that vision statement on the head and decided that they were in the people business serving coffee. The coffee was just a prop that engaged the customers in the memorable experience. And that's when they changed the whole philosophy, the whole focus, the strategy to what they called Starbucks as the third place. And then they thought about your home, your work, and then Starbucks. And when I'm speaking at conferences, I always say to an audience, particularly if it's a sales force, how many people have had a meeting at Starbucks in the last month? And literally 80% of the audience, the hands will go in the air because it's become the third place. It's where you meet clients or prospects or customers or do interviews from a professional perspective. And at weekends, it's where you go and meet your friends, sit on the brown leather sofas. They've got the Wi-Fi, they've got the music in the background. And of course, they extended the proposition to not only about coffee, but about sandwiches, about cakes, all the other things that they do within Starbucks. So Starbucks became known as the third place. Home, work, Starbucks. But it was all around that principle of forward to basics, of going back to our core that we do really well and getting our cultural identity, reconnecting with that cultural identity. We're not in the coffee business serving people, we're in the people business serving coffee. And what I think this really demonstrates is that for any organization, you can never lose the soul, the heartbeat of the organization, which is all about culture. Culture isn't a thing, culture is everything. And culture is simply this: how we do things around here. It's about how we think, it's about how we feel, and it's about how we act. But the one thing for certain is, from what I've done for 2 decades, helping businesses to grow and scale their businesses and become better leaders in the process. The one thing I can absolutely guarantee is that leaders will talk about they wish they'd invested more time at the front end, defining, shaping, and being really clear about what the cultural identity, the DNA, the heartbeat of the organization is. And Starbucks had that, but when Howard Schultz left, that DNA disappeared, and it dissipated over time, which is why when he came back in for his second tenure as CEO in 2008, he reconnected with that DNA. He got the heartbeat pumping again, and he went back to the values, the vision, the purpose, and why we do what we do every single day. So my challenge for you is to think about this. What lessons can you learn from that Howard Schultz onwards and Starbucks example? If a business like Starbucks can lose its identity, lose its soul, how easily can it happen in your business? Define your culture, shape your culture, make sure that everybody's bought into the culture, and most importantly, make sure it is living as an entity in your business every single day. For me, why Starbucks closed 7,100 stores in the US for 3 hours. What a great example, what a great lesson that we can all take away, practical, and apply to our businesses. From me until next time, goodbye for now.